For an ancient aquatic organism, the ocean is safe. Making the leap onto dry land is a brutal transition into a hostile environment. Out of the water, an early plant faces two immediate, life-threatening physical problems. Without buoyancy, gravity will crush it, and without ambient water, the air will dry it out. Usually, we are taught to learn plant taxonomy by memorizing static categories: mosses, ferns, pines, and flowering plants. That approach requires a lot of rote memorization, and it misses the actual strategy at play. Instead, look at this decision tree. We view these classes as an escalating series of physical upgrades, engineered to solve the threats of gravity and dryness. We will track the evolutionary leaps through three groups: Pteridophytes, Gymnosperms, and Angiosperms. Every step forward in this tree involves a strict economic trade-off. A plant can either produce cheap, fragile mass reproduction, like spores, or it can invest its energy into expensive, protective architecture, like seeds and internal plumbing. When viewing these adaptations through the lens of biological return on investment, or ROI, the complex taxonomy of the plant kingdom becomes logical and highly intuitive. We establish our baseline with simple plants, like mosses, known as bryophytes. They lack internal plumbing. Without a way to pump water, they are physically forced to stay tiny and hug the damp ground. This cross-section shows the massive evolutionary innovation developed by pteridophytes, the group that includes ferns. They built vascular tissue. Xylem tubes handle pulling water up from the roots, while phloem tubes handle pushing nutrients down from the leaves. With this plumbing installed, pteridophytes can extract water deep from the soil and grow vertically. They easily outpace mosses in the daily competition for sunlight. But the pteridophyte system has a severe limitation. They are cryptogams, meaning their reproductive structures are hidden, and they still require a layer of standing water for their flagellated sperm to physically succeed at swimming to an egg. To see why, we have to look at the internal life cycles. In simple mosses, the haploid stage, the gametophyte, is the dominant, long-lived phase of the plant. Pteridophytes reverse this arrangement. They make the diploid stage, the sporophyte, the dominant, highly visible phase. The sporophyte phase provides greater genetic stability. That stability is what provides the biological bandwidth to construct complex infrastructure like true roots, true stems, and broad leaves. With the sporophyte taking over the main plant body, the gametophyte in a fern shrinks. It becomes a tiny, vulnerable, short-lived structure known as a prothallus. Investing heavy energy into a robust sporophyte allows ferns to build vertical infrastructure. Yet, their reliance on swimming sperm means they are geographically imprisoned, entirely restricted to moist environments. To break out of that geographical prison and actually conquer dry land, plants needed a new piece of technology. They needed the seed. This chart maps the economics of reproduction. Pteridophytes rely on single-celled spores, dropping them into the bottom left quadrant. Spores cost very little metabolic energy, allowing the plant to produce them by the millions. However, in dry conditions, they suffer a catastrophically high failure rate. Gymnosperms, plants like pines and deodars, abandon the spore model to pioneer the complex multicellular seed. A seed provides the plant embryo with a pre-packaged food supply and a durable protective casing. The embryo can now survive, travel, and reproduce completely independent of environmental water. The trade-off is steep. Seeds require massive amounts of metabolic energy to manufacture. Gymnosperms accept that they will produce far fewer total offspring in exchange for a higher survival rate per unit. Mechanically, gymnosperms grow naked seeds exposed directly on protective cones, called strobili. In this setup, the independent gametophyte phase is entirely eliminated. Paired with needle-like leaves and soft wood lacking rigid xylem fibers, gymnosperms thrive in extreme, frozen environments where water is locked up as ice. The invention of the seed serves as biology's ultimate insurance policy. Gymnosperms trade the cheap mass production of spores for guaranteed offspring survival in the harshest terrestrial climates on the planet. Gymnosperms have one lingering vulnerability. Their seeds are naked. Without an outer protective layer, the seeds are highly exposed to the elements and direct animal predation. Angiosperms, the flowering plants, represent the final evolutionary tier. They solve this vulnerability through two massive upgrades. flowers, and fruits. Look at this side-by-side comparison. Gymnosperms rely on random wind currents to carry their pollen. Angiosperms use the flower. It acts as a targeted biological beacon, attracting insects to carry pollen directly from point A to point B. Once pollinated, the angiosperm utilizes the fruit. Mechanically, a fruit is just an enclosed ovary that safely houses and protects the developing seed. By wrapping seeds in nutritious fruit, angiosperms trick animals into eating them. The animals act as delivery vectors, achieving massive geographic dispersal for the plant. To support this, angiosperms also upgraded their infrastructure to hardwood, developing highly advanced water transport vessels. This allows for immense physical diversity, scaling from a tiny wolfia plant all the way up to a massive eucalyptus tree. But this system carries an absolute fatal vulnerability. Angiosperms rely entirely on external biological networks. If the local collimeter population collapses, the plant loses its ability to reproduce. Angiosperms conquer the resource-rich lowlands by outsourcing their reproduction to the animal kingdom. They achieve the highest biological ROI on Earth, paying for it with total ecological dependency. You can read the entire plant kingdom as a historical record of risk management. Lower plants take the low-energy route, utilizing cheap spores but remaining bound to water. Higher plants take the high-energy route, investing in vascular infrastructure and expensive seeds to gain geographic freedom. This cheat sheet maps out the life cycles across these groups, plotting the haploid N phase against the diploid 2N phase. You can use it to bypass rote memorization entirely. Apply the golden rule of dominance. Mosses are the only group that is gametophyte-dominant. Everything higher up the chain, from ferns to pines to roses, is sporophyte-dominant. Apply the secondary rule for identifying ploidy. If you are looking at a structural plant body, it is diploid. If you are looking at a reproductive cell, like a spore, pollen grain, or ovum, it is haploid. You can take this logic outside the exam room. You can read a physical environment just by looking at the dominant plant technology growing there. Broad leaves and fleshy fruits tell you are standing in a resource-rich, highly competitive lowland biome. Needle leaves and woody cones indicate you are on the harsh, cold margins where delicate flowering plants fail. Plant taxonomy is a living blueprint of ancient survival strategies. Once you understand the underlying math of how plants invest their resources, the natural world becomes entirely legible.